All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about muscle, but probably not in the way you're used to thinking about it. See, we're going to dive into the science of why muscle is so much more than just for show. It's actually at the very heart of your metabolic health.
So let's just jump right in with a big question, one that really cuts to the core of our modern health crisis. What do you think? What is the world's most common health disorder? Take a guess.
Well, according to metabolic scientist Dr. Ben Bikman, the answer is insulin resistance. And this isn't some minor issue. He argues that this one condition is basically the origin point for a whole host of chronic diseases. We're talking heart disease, infertility, and even things like Alzheimer's.
And here's why it's such a tricky problem, why it's so hidden. You see, for decades, you could go to the doctor, get your blood glucose checked, and everything looks totally normal. But what you don't see is what's happening underneath the surface. Your insulin levels have been silently creeping up and up and up. That's insulin resistance, working in the shadows long before you'd ever get a diagnosis of something like type 2 diabetes.
Okay, so if high insulin is the big problem here, then we've got to ask, where is all that blood sugar, that glucose, actually going? I mean, it has to go somewhere, right? And the answer? Well, it's probably going to surprise you. Just think about it for a second. You eat a meal, maybe something with carbs. Your blood sugar goes up. Your body, being the amazing machine it is, has to clear that sugar out of your blood to keep things in a safe, stable range. So where does it put it? Well, it turns out that the overwhelming majority of that glucose, a huge chunk of it, has one main destination. And that chunk? It's a staggering 80%. So where does that 80% go? You guessed it, it's your skeletal muscle. Yeah, that's right. After you eat, it's your muscles that are soaking up almost all of that glucose from your blood. This makes them, without a doubt, the most important player when it comes to managing your blood sugar. They're like the body's giant glucose sponge.
And here's how it's supposed to work in a perfect world. Insulin travels through your bloodstream, gets to a muscle cell, and it's kind of like it knocks on the door. This knock is a signal that tells these special little doors, they're called GLUT4 transporters, to swing open. And when they do, whoosh, the glucose rushes right into the muscle cell, getting it out of your bloodstream. Simple, right?
But what happens when this beautiful system breaks down? Well, that's when things get ugly. It kicks off this really devastating feedback loop, a vicious cycle that goes right after our most important metabolic organ. Now, here's something that trips a lot of people up, a really common misconception. We tend to think that insulin's main job for muscle is to build it, to help it grow. But Dr. Bikman points out that its primary role is actually defensive. It's anti-catabolic. Its job isn't so much to build muscle up, but to stop it from breaking down. That process, the breakdown of muscle protein, has a scientific name: proteolysis. So, in a healthy person, when insulin shows up, it basically slams on the brakes for proteolysis. It preserves all that hard-earned muscle you have.
But here's the kicker. When a muscle cell becomes insulin resistant, it's like it goes deaf. It just can't hear insulin shouting, "Stop breaking down" anymore. So what happens? Proteolysis just runs wild. The muscle starts to break down, it starts to waste away, even though there's plenty of insulin floating around.
And this feeds right into another huge problem called anabolic resistance. This basically means your muscles get stubborn. They stop responding to the signals that are supposed to make them grow, like the protein you're eating. So it just gets tougher and tougher to build muscle, or even just to hang on to what you've got.
So you can kind of picture it like this, right? On one side, you've got someone who's anabolically sensitive. Think of someone younger, insulin sensitive. They go to the gym, eat some protein, and boom, they build muscle pretty easily. But on the other side, you have someone who's anabolically resistant. This person might be older or insulin resistant, and they're doing all the right things, but they really struggle to see the same results. It's like their body is fighting them.
And this is where that dangerous downward spiral really takes hold. Check this out. Insulin resistance makes you lose muscle, but when you have less muscle, you have less space to store that blood glucose. So blood sugar stays high. What does the body do? It pumps out more insulin to try and deal with it. And that extra insulin, it just makes the insulin resistance even worse. You see the cycle? It's absolutely vicious.
Okay, so that's the bad news. But how do we break out of this thing? How do we stop the cycle? Well, the good news is the science gives us a pretty clear roadmap. There are specific strategies we can use to fight back against this anabolic resistance and get our metabolic health back on track.
The research really points to a clear game plan.
In fact, Dr. Bikman lays out a fantastic 4-part strategy to help us fight back and support our muscles, even when they've become resistant.
First things first, protein quality. This becomes absolutely non-negotiable. Dr. Bikman makes this point really clear. The more resistant your muscles are, the more the quality of your protein matters. Think about it. Your body isn't working as efficiently, so you have to give it the best possible building blocks to work with. And the research suggests that in this state, animal-based proteins are a better bet for flipping that muscle-building switch on.
All right, next up, we've got a couple of superstar molecules, leucine and HMB. Leucine is the amino acid that basically acts like the ignition switch for muscle growth. It screams, build. Then you've got HMB, which is like a bodyguard for your muscles. Its job is to stop them from breaking down. So one is on offense, the other is on defense. It's the perfect 1-2 punch.
Then we have vitamin D3. And yeah, I know, we all think bones when we hear vitamin D, but it's absolutely critical for your muscles too. It actually works as an amplifier. It makes your muscle cells hear that signal from leucine better. It basically cranks up the volume on the grow signal, making a real impact.
And finally, let's talk about creatine. This stuff is a powerhouse for 2 big reasons. First, think of it as a rapid recharge battery pack for your muscles. It helps them regenerate the energy they need to do their work. But that's not all. It also goes right into the muscle cell and activates the very genes that tell the muscle to get stronger and grow. So it's both a fuel source and a signal.
So when you pull all of this together, it really forces you to think differently about health, doesn't it? We've seen that muscle is way more than just for show. It's the main command center for our blood sugar. We've also seen how insulin resistance wages a war on that very muscle, trapping us in that vicious cycle. So it begs the question, should we be so obsessed with the number on the scale? Or is the real key to lifelong metabolic health focusing less on losing weight and more on building strength?